Hey there, fellow gamers. Welcome back to Gamer Girls Radio. Pardon the storm in the background. Today we're diving deep into the world, or should I say many worlds, of MMORPGs. And I am your host, Gaminatrix. But before we get started, let's check in with our ever amazing producer, Gladys. How's it going back there, Gladys? Oh, okay. Well, you're doing a fabulous job as always. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the MMORPGs, get right to it. Now, I have been around the MMORPG block quite a few times, and let me tell you, it's been a wild ride, but lately I found myself kind of stepping away from the genre, and I think it's about time to unpack why. So, first up, we're going to talk about the lack of innovation. Because it feels like some MMORPGs are kind of stuck in the past, kind of rehashing the same tired mechanics over and over and over again. It's kind of like we're trapped in Groundhog Day with the loop of fetch, quest, and kill 10 rats.
All day grinding like a zombie grind.
Yeah, exactly, Gladys. But let's take it back to a simpler time with one of the more popular and most imitated MMORPGs ever made, EverQuest. Now, I found EverQuest through a friend of mine back in the day. She and I used to play text-based games known as MUDs, or MUDs, and that's multi-user dungeons for you young ones. May do a video on those later, but not for sure about that. May not be able to find anything. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. With EverQuest, it was love at first pixel for me. I mean, the first time the little blonde elf lady popped up on my screen, I was gone, y'all. So my Friday nights became me, a pint of dirty rice from Popeyes, a biscuit, a Dr. Pepper, and EverQuest. And I had already spent the better part of the previous 3 years being all up in the club every weekend. And I kind of got tired of the lack of appreciation for my well-planned outfits and fabulous dance moves. And not to mention the smooth lines you fellas like to throw at us. You say, girl, what's up? That's really all you got, huh? So anyway, suffice it to say, the thrill and the adventure at the club were gone for me. And I was always a computer nerd, even if I didn't fully fit the stereotype outwardly. And I've been already transitioning to becoming a full-blown gamer geek for some time already. So I was already knee-deep in The Sims, Fallout, Diablo, and tons of other games, too many to name. But I had never at that time played an MMO or any other game with another actual person that wasn't in the same room. So EverQuest was a resounding yes. See what I did there? Yeah. Now, some of you young ones may be asking, what is EverQuest? What's it about? Or you've already looked at it online and saw the graphics and went, ew. And let me just say, it was very cutting edge for its time. And it also pulled no punches in the challenge department. So you earned every bit of XP, every loot gear that you got, every skill, and you learned to make friends because it was essential to your survival. So, for example, say you're a mage and your specialty was making enchanted jewelry. You leveled up enough finally to be able to travel to other towns to sell your jewelry. And once there, you would have to find another player who had the ability, skill, power to bind you to that town. This meant making that town your home base, if you wonder what that means. And why would you do that? Because if you died and you weren't bound to that town, you would be sent all the way back to your hometown. And you may have actually traveled real time 2 hours to get there. So you don't want to die and have to go all the way back and start over. And also when you died, you left behind your character and everything she carried on her little digital person. So you could go back and get it, but you might still need help. Maybe you died in a very unsafe place. So if you made friends, this was helpful. See, the thunder agrees with me. Now, some other features that I really loved about EverQuest back in the day is that you had to learn to speak the same language as other characters, other people playing the game with you, if they weren't the same race as you. I know some of you were like, oh, racism in games. It wasn't racism. It's actually kind of fun. Humans spoke human, elves spoke elvish, and so on. Or wood elves spoke whatever the hell it was wood elves spoke. Still don't like y'all. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. My friend was a wood elf. But language was definitely a viable skill, and you could indeed stand once you learned that skill and talk to your friends in that other language in front of other people and players, and if they didn't have the same skill, had no idea what you were saying. it would come across as gibberish on their screen, which brings me to my next point. This was all text. There was no such thing as voice chat at that time. So this was all typed. Voice chat did not exist in the game at that time, which I love because that forced you to pay attention to what people were saying and work together, how you're going to work together, which is really great. And I also loved the ability to exact revenge. Y'all know me, if you've been a fan of GGR, can't just let you walk away after you took my loot. Hear me out now. This feature has been so heavily redacted from most current MMOs that it makes it impossible to really enjoy the game when there's a grifer playing with you, not just to get after people because of no reason. The grifer has all the power, and you can report all you want, but there's a job missing that would help you with this back in the day called a game master, which became a community manager later. So you report and there's nobody responding to your report. So your only option when you're playing a game that you spent all this money on and somebody is harassing you is to either endure the abuse or just quit. But with EverQuest, revenge was swift and sweet, and generally that player learned a lesson. I once pulled an entire army after a grifer and rooted him to the spot in their path. He learned to behave and we became friends. We stayed friends for years. I don't know where you at, boy. Hello. You remember me? Yeah, anyway, say hello in the comments. Anyway, so those are certainly not all of the features in EverQuest. Those are just the ones that I really love the most. And of course, as time moved me on to other games, I always missed these things, all these beautiful, fun features. And I found it harder to make friends in EverQuest MMO Descendants, harder to want to play games that came after it like Dark Ages of Camelot or later WoW even. And as it becomes less about the quest and the community and only about PvP and selling more skins. Wait a minute, the skins don't even add anything to the game, really. They just look pretty. I mean, seriously, it's time for some fresh ideas, people. And I say this as one who actually makes game art. Make it pretty and functional. Okay, and don't even get me started on the pay-to-win mechanics of these skins, the ones that do have some merit. I mean, who thought it was a good idea to turn gaming into a capitalist dystopia? Nothing says fun like spending your entire paycheck on virtual loot boxes, right? So often the loot boxes are very random in their offerings. You don't get stuff you need or want to level up, and it unfairly tips the game in the favor of the paying player, not the one who put in all the work. Now me, I like my games with a side of fairness, thank you. Now, let's talk about the grind. This sweet, sweet sound of mindlessly farming for hours on end, said no one ever. I have spent more time killing boars or picking flowers than I care to talk about. And seriously, who has time for all that? I got to do, okay? So I log in to play a game for an experience, not to keep doing the same things over and over and over. And admittedly, it is hard to make a game and not have that grind in an MMO, but most of you developers out there are not even trying. You add medieval village and horse and bam, game. Games that are innovative, unfortunately, suffer crazy game killing fates, such as another favorite you will hear me mention often on the channel. I'm sorry, but I just really love the game, City of Heroes, and their epic face-off with Marvel. You know what? We're going to take a little side quest, and I'm going to delve into that old story for just a minute. Just my mic here. Make sure y'all can hear me. Ooh. Okay, so full disclosure, I don't recall the full story. This is just what I remember. So if you need all the details, there is a vast library known as the internet, and that can fill you in. But now for those of you who don't know and just want to get up to speed and not ready to go research yet, City of Heroes was a game made in the early to mid 2000s, or I may be misremembering, but either way, it's in the 2000s, where you got to be a superhero. Your powers, your name, and costume were all created by you, and your backstory. And of course, some players, present company included, recreated their favorite superheroes in the game. So I had Storm and Psylocke. Marvel, of course, came after Cryptic Studios and NCSoft, claiming copyright infringement or whatever they said at the time. I'm not a lawyer, but I thought they don't have a leg to stand on, really. I mean, players made the characters, not the game developers, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But either way, NCSoft / Cryptic did what they could to correct the perceived slight to Marvel, and they first stripped away our characters' names and costumes. So we had to recreate our characters from scratch. My Aurora Monroe, Storm, for those of you who didn't know Storm's real name, became Maggie Monday. Same powers. I had a similar costume, so it was clearly Storm, but not Storm. And this was not enough for Marvel, apparently. They came after them again, more fallout ensued. So after the release of City of Villains, both the heroes and villains in the game began declining. The subscription started declining, which led to their eventual shutdown. And the game, I thought, was extremely innovative at the time in that there was no other game like it. And there hasn't been since. And I don't care about that little janky game Marvel has made talking about coming here and be your favorite Marvel superhero. Being able to create your own hero or villain, complete with your own backstory, and playing in a world that not only had its own real-life comic book counterpart that they would send you every month, but also had an annual cosplay contest allowing you to dress up as your own character and win a chance to appear in the comics drawn by an artist. My memory's a little fuzzy on that one, but I believe it's true, so we're going to go with it. This is innovation at its finest. Now, I know Marvel tried making that little game. Meh. My Maggie Monday went so far beyond just being a Storm clone by the time I was done. Not to mention my personally created heroes like Messiah Jones, half angel, half human, blaxploitation movie star hero, or Gaminatrix. Put myself in the game. I was a mix of a little Beyonce and a sniper, deadly, beautiful, and the best dancer in Atlas Park. Say I'm not. So many people logged in to play and live out their superhero fantasies and work together to make Atlas Park safe or be a villain and tore Atlas Park down. There was even a Kraken to battle from time to time. But I digress. Games like this one and The Matrix Online defined an era in MMORPGs where players and devs worked together to create an experience that bar none gave you your money's worth. You had expansion packs, also known as DLC now, but you couldn't, well, let me say it differently because I'm stuttering, but you didn't have to have it to win the game or to play. You didn't have to have this content. These particular communities love talking and interacting with each other. And if you reported an issue with someone in a game, these two games, or most of the games from that time period, a GM/community manager showed up to help. They might even give you a little goodie to help along your character's journey. Now, this brings me to my next point, topic, subject, whatever you want to call it. Last and certainly not least, we're going to talk about toxic communities, because nothing ruins a good gaming session like a troll with a keyboard. Now, these people sometimes make me think the internet was a huge mistake. Toxic communities can really suck all the fun out of gaming. Okay, but we're going to talk about one of the best little-known communities from back in the day, The Matrix Online. And of course, if you are a longtime fan of GGR, you have heard me wax damn near poetic about this game, its storyline, and the clothes. My God, the clothes alone. You could craft beautiful clothes, and they actually added to your gameplay. Made you faster, stronger, more armor, whatever it was. But that's not even where the game shined. Okay, whatever. The community is where the game really stood out. So players in MXO, as it was called, loved to roleplay. The devs actually gave players the tools to do this in a very spectacular fashion. One tool that I particularly loved is that you could broadcast your own radio stream into the game. You could play music, you could act like a news station and report what's going on in game. And you could do this live with your actual voice. Players ate this up, let me tell you. And me being me, at the time, I think GGR was probably a few months old when this happened. So I didn't want to bring GGR in yet. And also, I think only 2 of us really wanted to play Matrix Online out of like 15 of us that worked between Gamer Girls Radio and Gaminatrix.com. So it was just me, my other partner in crime in MXO, lived in another country, so sometimes he was asleep, couldn't play with me. So I would often go around and send in reports to one particular station that I liked and tell them, here's a heavy agent presence in this particular district, or tell them the name of my ship and where I was and where to avoid if you were the type of human that I was. All of this in character, and they would report and say my name, because y'all know I love that. So I was known as or not known as but I was a neo-human, and I only listened to neo-human stations. So I can imagine the other factions, like the Cypherites, yes, named after Cypher, the betraying bastard, had their own stations. So they reported things. And yes, there were factions that fought against each other, and there was PvP right throughout the entire game, no safe places. But you would think that people were fighting all the time, but they didn't. There was no real strife other than, us playing the game together. The GMs / community managers had a very heavy presence in the game, in the form of actually being characters from the movie. Morpheus, Niobe, Cypher, Agent Smith, and Neo on some occasions. There were weekly events that were held, and everyone always stayed in character. And let me tell you, I don't recall any toxicity, no cussing, nobody running around yelling out little baby lyrics. It's just us against the machines. So I have run across very few communities that get along this well in recent times. And certainly I have not run across any GMs or community managers in a game in I don't know how long. Like, take for instance, Red Dead Redemption Online. If any game could benefit from an in-game developer, GM, community manager presence, it's Red Dead. And it's my personal belief, if they had a community manager or somebody there would be much less fighting or people hacking the game and making everybody else miserable. Or at least allow players, if you're not going to do that, allow them to create their own little online pocket realm so they can play with just their friends, just to enjoy it. I mean, Red Dead is one of the most beautiful games ever made. But I won't play online because I get tired of random fighting breaking out just because, well, it's not the random fighting. It's the random fighting breaking out just because there's a little boy who should not even be playing an AO rated game, mind you. But he decided to follow me around and harass me for the next few hours because, he's 12. I'm a grown-ass woman. Okay, so developers, you need to get GMs or whatever the modern equivalent is being called back into some of the MMOs. Bring back the fun. Make gaming fun again. And I'm going to say this too. Developers, please do not try to do it yourselves. So some of you out there are not people. You are terrible at interacting with the community. That's why the position of community manager or GM existed. Let someone else do it if you can afford to pay them to do it. Please. It works. It's great. I tell you, I absolutely loved seeing the reaction of players when, especially in MXO, when Morpheus showed up and players are flocking to him and he's giving the speeches and rallying the troops and we're going to go and actually do some PvP. And you didn't have to if you didn't want to. You could just kind of stand by and be like, they're fighting. But it was like a rock star entered the game. Imagine how cool it would be if, Red Dead instituted, I don't know, the governor, the high sheriff, the something, and he came in and, hey, stop chasing this person, or hey, you're going to jail for a few hours, something. And I know they have that in there, but it holds much more weight when it's the developer that does it. So I would love to see that back in there. Now, that being said, there are a few MMOs that still do have really great communities. One of them that I have run across. Now, it's not the same as before, but they're really decent. Everybody kind of gets along. It's not too much strife. Is 1 Hour, One Life. If you've not played that on Steam, love it. It's very challenging but fun. Fallen Earth is another one. Fallen Earth's a bit old now, but they were also extremely innovative. Might be a video coming on this one too, but I'm not certain for that one. And I know there's a Fallen Earth 2 coming. But as I alluded to earlier, really good non-toxic communities are very few and far between. So where does that leave us? Well, for me, it's all about exploring some alternative gaming experiences. From indie games to some single player epics, there's a whole world of gaming out there waiting to be explored. And me personally, I don't have to play with other people. I'm an introvert, so I'm usually fine kind of rolling solo. But it is nice to play with other people and make new friends. I've made some of my best friends gaming all across the globe. I mean, made friends with really good people. I don't think there's a continent I could step on and don't have a friend that I've made through gaming. And I've stayed at some of your houses. Some of you have fed me. Some of we've exchanged Christmas presents. It's just, this is a wonderful thing that my friendship is not limited to people that live around me. I love that. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. What about you guys out there? Are you still grinding away in MMORPG land? Or have you found greener gaming pastures elsewhere? I so totally hiccup then, guys. Sorry about that. So anyway, let me know down in the comments. I can't talk today. Comments. Until next time, happy gleaning. Yeah, I'm gonna get this. I swear, guys, I haven't been drinking. It's the storm. I'm kind of nervous. I'm sitting next to a window where there's lightning. Anyway, until next time, happy gaming. Gladys, I need an exit.